All right, welcome to the beginning of angles in your geometry course. It says at Unit 2, but that's because last year it was Unit 2, and this year we're not going to start off using the compass, what we call the constructions unit. So we're going to jump right into angles, some of which the vocabulary you will remember from middle school, and a few things might be new, but we're going to start slow, make sure we're all on the same page. If you have your paper packet, make sure you got your name down here. So this is the first page of angles, and I like to put the date on every page, so today would be 9. I believe it's going to be, I'm doing this ahead of time, so I think we're going to be on 9/17. If I'm wrong, you just put the day that it is today. So angles. So an angle is formed by two lines that have a common point. The common point is called a vertex. And the vertex is that point right there. It's sort of like the turning points where the angle is fastened together, if you want to think about it that way. And then these are parts of lines because they go on forever. Starting at that point, they go on forever, but they do stop here. And when a line has one endpoint and one arrow, we call that not a line, we call that a ray. So those are the rays of the angle. So that is a ray, that is a ray. And they meet at the vertex. And there are 3 ways to label an angle. You can just pick a number, and this gets really helpful later on in the year when we want to refer to something and we want to go quickly. We could just say, you know what, this angle right here, I'm going to put a little number 1 here. I named it number 1 on my own, so I'm going to call that angle number 1. You can call it angle 73 if you want, but that would be weird. So angle number 1, you can do it that way. Or you could call it by its single letter name. Not always, but in a simple angle like this doesn't have any crossovers, so it's a simple angle that's just right here. And that point is B. So you can call it by the vertex, which is just angle B, because it's at point B. And then sometimes you have to use 3 letters because, like I drew a minute ago, if this kept going and this kept going, if you just said angle B, nobody would know if you meant here, 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 or here, which one of those 4 angles. So if I did mean that same angle, I would have to say angle, where does it start? Up there, A. Where does it turn? At B. And where does it head toward? C. So the middle letter is the vertex if you do it with the 3 letters. Starts at A, goes and turns at B, and finishes at C. You could also say that in reverse order. You could say it starts at C, turns at B, and goes to A. So that's how you name an angle, different ways to name it. Types of angles. An acute angle is anything that is less than 90 degrees. All right, so in this case, that is less than 90. So acutes are small angles, sharp angles. An obtuse angle is anything that is greater than 90 degrees. A right angle, probably all remember that. This little symbol in here showing that's exactly a perfect corner, meaning that is a 90-degree angle. So right angles have to equal 90. And then there's this 4th kind of angle, which you might argue isn't an angle at all. It's a straight angle. And every angle has a degree measure, so you could be 15 degrees, 48 degrees, 89 degrees. But what if you're 180 degrees? Then you would be, it's almost impossible to see the vertex. Let's say it could be there. You opened up all the way. So it's really, it opened up to a straight line, but it is called a straight angle. So a straight angle equals 180 degrees. It's almost like this one if it had opened up even more. And some new vocabulary. Special angles. What about adjacent angles? The word adjacent just in regular terms outside of math, means next to. So adjacent angles have a common vertex and a common side line between them. So they're basically like next door neighbors. So angle BAC, right? We'll call it angle BAC. That's this one in here, right? That would be adjacent to angle CAD. Right? That would be adjacent to angle CAD, because CAD is next door, meaning it shares this ray as a wall. They share that common wall, so they're adjacent. They're right next to each other. Sometimes adjacent angles form a straight line. So if you had a line or a segment that was straight, and you had a segment or a ray coming out of it like that, this angle and this angle will always add up to 180 degrees. And if they add up to 180, because somewhere in here we have a full straight angle, right? Then they're called supplementary. So supplementary adjacent angles equal 180 degrees. It could be 90 and 90, it could be 170 and 10, it could be any combination that adds up to 180. But they don't have to be touching. Technically, you could have an angle out here that's just floating somewhere, and that could be 150 degrees, for example, and you could have an angle somewhere else, not even next to it, and you could call that 30 degrees. They're still considered supplementary angles because they do add up to 180. If I was to move it over there, it would work, but it doesn't have to be next to it to be considered supplementary. And like a linear pair, I'm just going to use this example. You could draw that picture again right here, because a linear pair is supplementary angles that do share a wall. So that's the same picture. You can draw that again. And the last couple of things, complementary angles. Complementary angles that are adjacent come from one big 90-degree angle. So if that entire thing is 90 and there's a split somewhere in the middle, not necessarily half, you can tell that's a little lower than half. Let's say, I'm just making an example, let's say that this was 40 degrees, well that would make that 50, right? Because the whole thing has to be 90. It wouldn't have to be 40 and 50, maybe it was 60 and 30, maybe it was 89 and 1, maybe it was 45 and 45. But this angle and this angle are complementary. So complementary angles add up to 90 degrees. And again, they don't have to touch either, just like supplementary. This could have been 40 and this could have been 50, and they could be from different areas, but they're still considered complementary angles. And the last topic we'll touch upon is vertical angles. We'll talk more about that next class, but I'll introduce it right now. Vertical angles are when two lines intersect. So you have the situation right here, kind of forms like an X. And the angles that are opposite each other are vertical angles. So you could say that this one is vertical to this one, or you could say this one is vertical to this one. And when that's true, vertical angles have the same value. So if this was 100 degrees, so would this one.